Hey everybody, it's Steve Marchand we're trying something different. We have we're part of a beta test here on Substack that allows you to do some things on the desktop and to do some live without the scheduling. So we're gonna try something here. I hope to be able to provide some. There we go. I think we may have our friend. Here we go. Our special guest. Hey, Karen, can you hear me?
I can hear you,
Oh, good.
and I will tell you I am on my phone.
Okay, on the phone. So maybe it turns out it has to be the phone. Okay, we're
Yeah.
learning. This is what happens is live. So something that I'm interested in doing is a little bit more quick hit, 5, 10, 12 minute, that kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff happening during the week.
Yeah.
And then, and a lot of folks really don't have the time for like a hour long thing, or they don't read all the stuff. So this is an opportunity during the week to provide some quick hits and have some friends and some great guests to talk about topical things. And it just happens that sometimes, as you'll see in a moment, the topical thing is the guest. So, and that's Karen. We got Executive Councilor Karen Liot Hill. Karen, how are you doing?
Well, I gotta tell you, I had a great day on Friday, which I think we'll talk about, but then I woke up on Saturday morning and we're bombing Iran, and it does feel like every single day there is something new, there is some plot twist, there's just, it feels a little bit like the world is bananas, bananas, sometimes, and so, I guess all the more reason that we have to celebrate when good things do happen.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, we were doing a preview of the legislative week ahead last night,
Yeah.
and it's really easy to get down, I think, at times as a Democrat in New Hampshire because the Republican trifecta in Washington,
It's
and
actually
then that kind of
it's a quadfecta in New Hampshire.
quadfecta.
It's a
Thank you.
quadfecta, yeah.
Quadfecta. That's right. Trifecta in DC, quadfecta in
Yeah.
that's very good in New Hampshire. And so it feels like a lot of things, good ideas get killed in the process or bad ideas
Yeah,
become law. But once in a while, a good thing happens, and that
yes.
kinda takes us to something that may have gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit during school vacation week, particularly last Friday morning. Karen, you were there. Set the
Yeah.
scene.
It was awesome. So Friday morning, 9:30 a.m. was the public hearing on HR 41, the impeachment resolution against me that was brought forward back in September. So it was threatened in August. You'll recall over my emails that I sent on behalf of some constituents who were concerned about a voting rights bill that had been passed. It was actually a voter suppression bill. And that's what was really concerning. I used my official email to do some outreach about this bill. And that is what some Republicans found to be really inappropriate. And so the Republican Party, the New Hampshire Republican Party, filed a complaint with the AG's office, and the Deputy Majority Leader Joe Sweeney, Representative Joe Sweeney, filed this resolution to impeach me. So this has been hanging over my head for more than for around 6 months now. It finally came to a head. The public hearing in New Hampshire, every single piece of legislation gets a public hearing, and that finally was scheduled. We had about a week notice, but it was a little surprise. It was scheduled for Friday morning during school vacation, in front of the House Judiciary Committee. So 9:30 a.m. on Friday. There were about 50 supporters who came out, stood with me. So when I arrived, there were people holding signs, which was so heartwarming. And then there was a brief hearing before mine. And actually, before it all got started, we had some late breaking news. The chair of the committee announced that the bill sponsor, Joe Sweeney, had actually asked the committee to kill the bill, to vote it ITL, inexpedient to legislate. And so that was late breaking news. The room was full. Like I said, there were about 50 people or so. We were in the hallway. And then when the hearing started, we had come into the hearing room. And so the room was was full, and I think actually part of the reason why the chair made that early announcement was to let everyone know that, he made it clear. He said, "We're happy to listen to everyone, but if you but here's what we're gonna be doing just in case you don't necessarily wanna speak." 'Cause I think they wanted to avoid a 3 or 4 or 5-hour hearing, by having so many people speaking, and so, anyway, it all worked out. They got through the short hearing ahead of mine. Then they took up my bill. We had some very brief testimony, and ultimately the committee voted unanimously 17-0. Now, this is a committee that's majority Republicans, so it was bipartisan and it was unanimous to kill the bill. So it's going to the full House floor on March 11th on the consent calendar with a unanimous committee recommendation to kill the bill. And so the best possible outcome. And I'm just so thankful. Do you know how many people signed in against this bill, Steve?
I know about how many, but I think you should say the wow number, right? You've earned the
Yeah.
wow number.
I think the latest count was 2,031
Yeah.
to 13. I mean, it's really remarkable, and so, you know, my heart is full. My heart is full of gratitude for all of the people who have supported me now for 6 months on this, who've really rallied around me, and who showed up, whether it was in person or whether it was this astounding, avalanche of support, through the online testimony, and I think it's a very strong statement that this public pressure makes a difference. We saw it just last week with all of that public pressure about the ICE detention facility in Merrimack. That brought about the result where Governor Ayotte had to go to DC and say, my reelection is in jeopardy. And she was able, to then come back and share the good news. But she was only able to do that because of the public pressure, and I think that that public pressure also was very apparent in my case, and, so I think this is a great thing for all of us to take heart that all of this protest, all of the resistance, it does make a difference.
Well, it's very much so. And the juxtaposition of these two events, you last Friday morning with the Judiciary Committee, the proposed ICE facility in Merrimack, all that. These are examples that rhyme. And
Yeah.
the stakes are obviously very high, right? So with yours, obviously there are the stakes, the immediate stakes, the potential impeachment on what were unprecedented and political grounds of the one Democrat on the executive council. But I would argue, and I think this is part of what got some of the resonance to a much wider audience. The stakes were much bigger for the culture of New Hampshire, of the way we do
Yeah.
politics, right? I mean, we've had two people in the history of New Hampshire that had been impeached. Neither of them were elected officials. They were both judges. One was not convicted in the Senate. The other retired before it could even get there. So we've never actually had somebody who's been impeached and convicted. Never even had an elected official in the history of New Hampshire who had been impeached. And then and I believe Representative Sweeney alluded to this through the surrogate, that this became kind of a moot point in part, even among with the sponsor, because the Attorney General's office had made its conclusions a couple of months ago that really rendered this moot for anybody being objective about this. Correct?
That's right. I was cleared by the AG back in December. The Attorney General's office issued a report, um, laying out the facts of the emails that I sent out, and going through the law. There was no violation of state law. There was no violation of the code of ethics because elected officials, we are bound by there's an executive branch code of ethics. There's also a legislative branch code of ethics for the legislators, but there was no violation of the code of ethics. And most importantly, there was no misuse of my office, no misuse of my position. And I think that really carried a lot of weight. Truthfully, on Friday morning, the AG's report was the star of the show. That was really the most important thing. I offered some very brief testimony, but really just to underscore My emails that I sent were typical constituent services. The AG cleared me of any wrongdoing. Impeachment is something that it's the most serious consequence. It's the most serious power that the legislature has to remove an elected official from office, someone who's been elected by the people. And we can't take that lightly. And the last thing that we want to see in New Hampshire, I think we all agree on this, and I think that the Judiciary Committee agreed, is that we don't want to see impeachment being used as a method of political retribution. If we don't agree with someone, we're just going to impeach them. Like that, we don't all agree on everything in New Hampshire. We certainly have some very serious disagreements, but um, we do agree that the power belongs to the people. That's something, we are kind of the most, the I call us the most anti-tyrannical state because we have made sure that power in so many ways, that we have made sure that the people are the ones that have the power. It's the whole reason we have an executive council, for example, to add an extra check and balance so that the people have more power over what's going on with the governor. And I think that that's important to all of us in New Hampshire. And I'm really glad the Judiciary Committee, the unanimity, the fact that it was unanimous, really sends a strong message that we want to keep New Hampshire, New Hampshire. We want to respect the will of the voters. We want to make sure that accountability happens, but that it happens in the right way. The Department of Justice, they did an investigation and cleared me. And so, if people don't like what I have to say or if they don't agree with me, the place to take that out is at the ballot. And so I think that's one of the takeaways on for me on Friday is that we do respect, we share a respect for the voters and for the process in New Hampshire. And I'm glad to see that Washington D.C. style politics has not completely taken hold in New Hampshire. I think for me it was an affirmation that things are not broken. Things are not completely broken in New Hampshire.
So just to reiterate, we've had some folks hop in. Last Friday morning, there was the hearing of the Judiciary Committee about this LARC, this impeachment bill that had a single sponsor to it. The sponsor did not show up. Instead, had a surrogate say we should have this thing ITL'd, effectively killed. It passed 17-0 through committee and Republican majority committee. So obviously, fantastic news. But just again, for folks that maybe are hopping on, there is a final step in this process that
Yes.
will occur next week, correct?
Correct. It was too late to get on the agenda for the session day that's going to be happening on Thursday this week. So it will be on next week's calendar. And next week, they've got a lot of work to do in the House. So it's going to be a 2-day session, Wednesday and Thursday. This bill is going on consent, which typically gets taken up at the very beginning. There'll be dozens of bills that are go through on consent. So hopefully by, maybe this time on Wednesday of next week, March 11th, this bill will finally be fully resolved. And I'm very much looking forward to that. I do want to just say that I did receive a text from Representative Sweeney on the day of the hearing on Friday, and he told me that he was home with a sick child. And so I do want to make clear he was not there. That is correct. But as I understand it, it was because he had family obligations. And so I did appreciate that he texted me right at the same time that the chairman was making that announcement, that the committee was planning to ITL it at the recommendation of the bill sponsor. So I do want to make sure that I say that because that's what I understood to be true on Friday morning.
Well, and those of us like you and me who've been through parenthood,
Yes. Yeah.
this would not be an uncommon occurrence in February, uh,
Oh yeah.
of a year when your kids are really young. I know I'm just coming on the back end of a net, like 2 weeks of just this thing not going away. The whole family's gotten it. So I hope that Representative Sweeney's child is doing better and not,
Exactly.
that doesn't last very long. Let's close up. What's ahead for you on the executive council? Obviously, we're in an election year, but there's a lot of business as well.
Yeah,
What's
this afternoon, we've got 2 hearings. We've actually got a public hearing on the governor's nominee for child advocate. This is the person that, a position that was created, I think it was in response to the really terrible, tragedy of Harmony Montgomery's death, who you will recall was, um, faced significant serious child abuse while DCYF was kind of following this family. So fell through the cracks. And one of the reforms was to create this Office of the Child Advocate to be an additional watchdog over our state agencies that are responsible for the welfare of children. So the governor's put someone forward for that, and we've got a public hearing with her this afternoon. And immediately after that, we've got a public hearing on the governor's nominee for the chair of the Public Utilities Commission. And this is sort of the quasi judicial board that that has to address cases brought forward by the utilities so that when they want to make a rate increase, when the electric companies want to increase their rates, they have to go before the Public Utilities Commission and justify those rates based on our law. It's a very important position. Obviously, high electric costs, high utility costs, you know, um, that's something that affects a lot of New Hampshire families. And so, affordability is something I'm going to be focused on this afternoon when I ask my questions of the nominee. And we'll be voting on those on Wednesday. We've got a huge executive council meeting on Wednesday. You may have heard that we've received $207 million this year from the federal government for the Rural Health Transformation Grant. It's not going to make up for all the money that the federal government is taking away, but it certainly is going to make, $200 million in a state like ours makes a big difference. And we're going to be awarding contracts for about $170 million of that on Wednesday of this week. So very big things happening. The impeachment. I'll just be glad to kind of have that resolved because there's so much work to do, and I take my work very seriously. So I'm digging. I'm doing my homework. Got a lot to do, and I appreciate you taking some time to talk about this, and I so appreciate all of the support from the over 2,000 people who signed in against my impeachment bill online last week. That was huge. The 100 people that came out for my press conference last month, and the 50 people who came out to my to the hearing on Friday morning. Public pressure matters. It mattered for me. It mattered for the ICE detention facility. And I'll tell you, I'm very looking forward to the No Kings rally on March 28th. So hopefully I'll get to see a lot of folks on the road, be hitting as many of those as I can in my area. And I know there's going to be huge turnout around the state. And I think we've got the evidence that it matters.
It does matter. So that's a great way. There's going to be plenty going on. We're in an election year. Stuff isn't going to slow down. It's going to heat up
Yeah.
at the state, the local, the state, our national, and clearly, certainly at the moment, international level. There's and this nascent war appears to be widening. Not It's not surgical at this point, and so obviously the stakes couldn't be higher there. Uh, a couple of quick reminders, and appreciate folks on short notice. We're going to try to do more of this sort of thing sometimes on things that are very timely, maybe things that are happening in the legislature on a given day that lead to some news at the end of the day, or when we have really important news like this today, for things that might have gone under the radar screen for folks that maybe were taking the kids skiing at the end of last week for some vacation,
Yeah.
or like my house and Representative Sweeney's house, dealing with everybody being sick in the house. It's easy for stuff to slide by. And we hope that you'll join us when these things come across and give us feedback. Couple of blatant promotional notes. I have a new Substack out this morning. Spent a lot of time this weekend while recovering, sipping tea, writing about a curious political figure that I think a lot of folks aren't familiar with, Aaron Day. Aaron Day, a core member of the Free State Project going back to the late 2000s, who was a seminal figure, I am arguing, in kind of the last 10 years of American history, particularly in the U.S. Senate. It's pretty crazy. He's New Hampshire's own. He lives in Bedford, and he is poised to play spoiler again, potentially, in the 2026 U.S. Senate race. So is a provocative title on purpose. Is Aaron Day New Hampshire's most consequential politician? It is a bit of a thought piece, a lot of research. Please read that. It also gives you some insight, additional insight into the Free State Project and how it has over the last 15 years really gone from something quite fringe on the political front
Yeah.
and has just um, steadily made its way into the center of politics, certainly, pardon me, in the Republican Party.
Oh,
And
dominating the
um,
Republican Party. There is virtually no Republican Party in New Hampshire left. It is
it's the same.
really dominated by the Free State Project. And I think Aaron Day's story is also really interesting because it is a great example of how much impact someone can have even when they lose. Right? Like, that is, uh, as you said, so yeah, I highly, recommend everyone read this piece that Steve's put out, it's there's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn. I will tomorrow got a very interesting Substack live at noon. That'll be a fuller broadcast. I'm going to have friends Tom Opal, a state representative in your neck of the woods, Karen, up in
Yes,
Canaan, as we
good
approach the Upper
friend.
Valley.
Yeah.
And Andy Valinsky, former executive counselor and former 2020 gubernatorial candidate. They are making a pretty big announcement tomorrow, and that deals with state policy. And they certainly have been thinking a lot about it. And then a couple hours after that announcement, I believe that's set for 10 a.m. tomorrow in Concord, we'll be having them on live at noon for the hour. Gonna ask a lot of questions. It's on topics dealing with education funding and all this sort of thing. I've spent a lot of years on that topic, and so I'll have a lot of questions. And
Well,
I think
Andy Valinsky teased it on his own Facebook yesterday that they're gonna be announcing an education income tax.
that's
So,
so there you go. I told them I wasn't gonna spill the beans too much, but the beans got
he
begin.
put it out there, so I think it's out there, and,
Beans are on the ground. So the
beans
beans
are
are being spilling. And so that's gonna be it's provocative and it's gonna be a fascinating hour. Tomorrow at noon, you'll see the invite, and then you can hop on at noon. And then also excited, I'm recording it Wednesday, probably Thursday morning we'll have out. I've got a podcast episode that'll be coming out. I'll make sure you all have the link with my friend from North Conway, Democratic State Representative David Page. David is an
Oh,
extremely
he's
thoughtful
great. Yeah.
guy. And
Oh,
one of the
housing.
yeah,
He is so good. He's one of the I think he's one of the most knowledgeable, policymakers in our state, on housing, and he's terrific. That's gonna be a great one.
and that's what we'll tap into. We're going to spend most of the hour on housing policy. We did a pregame late last week to prepare for it, as we often do. And at the end of it, I wish that I'd recorded that because
Ah,
the nerd, there's a bit of nerd going on, and I can't give a better compliment. And David's he's also a charismatic guy who understands the
yeah.
material. You're a very skilled political and policy figure. So we'll record that Wednesday, have that out late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. Content galore, and so hopefully, if you like it, spread the news, share the link, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're not a subscriber, please become one. If you're a free subscriber, I appreciate it, but consider becoming a paid subscriber. It's what allows me to do these 2,000 word think pieces with deep research on Aaron Day, as well as all the live work. But I think it fills a gap that we have in the New Hampshire media landscape with what I hope folks will see is thoughtful and well researched and accessible work on a variety of different platforms, including getting to have spend time with my friends live online like Karen. So
Yeah,
that's kind of a
there you
neat
go.
little side benefit to that. Anyway, we've gone on for 23 minutes. That's probably longer than I planned. It always happens when Karen and I get together. Thank you so much,
We've
Karen. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Last Friday. Great news.
Yeah.
And thank you all for joining us. We will do this again soon. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you. Bye bye.
All right. See you guys on the road. Bye.